Capitol tonight. There is a new bill in the state legislature that loosely mirrors the controversial Federal DREAM Act that died in Congress last year. One big difference, this bill does not provide a path to citizenship. It would, however, give young people who were brought to the U.S. illegally by their parents a chance to earn a college degree, access to financial aid for college, the ability to work legally in New York, health care, and here's the big one, a driver's license. Now, that did not work so well for Eliot Spitzer, as you will recall. Here to explain more about this measure is one of its co-sponsors, Democratic Senator Dan Squadron. Dan, thanks very much for your time. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
So if you would just briefly explain what the genesis was for this particular bill, because at the federal level, it died.
It did die, but I would remind you that a majority of both houses of Congress in the last session supported it. It died because of a filibuster in the Senate that the Republican minority put forward. But, it passed the House, and it had a majority support in the Senate.
Right.
Look, the idea here is if you are brought to this country as a child and you're not a documented immigrant, but you want to get an education, you want to serve your state in the state's armed forces, you want to be a productive member of the state and get a job and work hard, then we should give you a path to do that. And this bill aims to act where the federal government didn't succeed in the last session. And so, as you say, it gives a variety of options for young people, again, who were brought here under the age of 16, who didn't have documentation, who are already getting their own education and want to get a further education, or serve the state in our National Guard for 2 years, or do a great deal, almost 1,000 hours of community service. So, and I have to say, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to point out, this is actually since the DREAM Act failed to pass in Congress, and that was during that lame duck session where a lot of things actually got done, but this one did not. There are states all across the nation that are addressing the issue of immigration in a variety of ways. They're either moving in this particular direction, particularly when it comes to education, which of course is a path for people to better themselves and then eventually become, as you noted, productive members of society. And then on the flip side, moving to become more stringent about immigration. But of course, New York is a state of immigrants, so generally speaking, that's not the way, generally speaking, this state has gone.
No, we shouldn't start going in that direction. And New York State has a history of being on the forefront of progressive change, of expanding opportunity. This isn't the debate that we had a couple of years ago. This isn't in a vacuum. What this does is it takes a mainstream idea that came within a hair's breadth of becoming federal law, in fact, in an even more aggressive form, and says, on the state level, let's not leave these children behind. Let's not leave these young people who want a college degree, who want a job, who want to serve our state behind. Let's give them a path to, on the state level, give that some real value and try to regularize them in the state as much as we possibly can. And, I got to say, that's young people who want to do the things that this bill requires, those are exactly the kind of people we want to have be New Yorkers.
But is it possible, is there something that you have built into this bill to answer those people who will say, who did say the last time when Eliot Spitzer tried just on the driver's license piece and nothing else, that they said it would be dangerous, that they pointed to the 9/11 terrorists who got driver's license, some of them, and used those identifications to subsequently live in this country and establish themselves? Is there something built into this bill that would prevent that kind of thing from happening?
Well, look, there's a whole lot in this bill. You need to have been in the state for a couple of years. As I say, you need to have a high school degree or equivalent. You need to have 2 years of college, or 1,000 hours of community service, or 2 years serving our state in its National Guard. You can't have any felony conviction. So there's a lot of things here. This is a category of people, and again, a category of people who have to have come here without documentation under the age of 16, and they need to still be under the age of 35. This is about young people who are here, who were brought here as children without documentation, and now are really working and committing themselves. This is, look, we should never underestimate people's willingness to fearmonger or demagogue the issue of immigration. Though we're a country of immigrants, we also unfortunately have a history of too often, for political gain or short-term gain or whatever reason, really having a pretty poisonous rhetoric. Look, I'm sure that someone or people can twist this if they like, But the truth is, this is about young people who want to work hard, who want to be New Yorkers, who want to be Americans, and us as a state supporting that.
Okay, so we should probably note that the Republicans already are talking about blocking this, and you are in the minority, although the split in the Senate is pretty thin. It's 32-30 if you're taking just Democrats, Republicans, and then 26, 30, what are we at? 26-36, is that correct? With the 4 renegades who frequently vote with the Republicans. On the
I'm
Assembly,
getting credit towards my math PhD.
Right, I'm sorry. That's about the extent of my mathematic capability. And then on the Assembly side, you do have a sponsor for this. But at this moment, it is a piece of policy that, of course, is not moving necessarily because we're focused on the budget. And if you wouldn't mind, I want to just get to the budget briefly. You, of course, are in New York City. The talks today did not generate an on-time deal, even a conceptual deal. Are you concerned about, I talked to your colleague last night, Liz Kruger, who said she was concerned that rent control will not be in the budget, and she doesn't know if she'll be able to vote for it. Do you feel similarly?
Look, the extension and expansion of rent laws in New York City and the surrounding counties is incredibly important. It's fundamentally important to who we are as a city, directly affects the homes of probably 2.5 million New Yorkers or so. So it's incredibly important, and we've seen when it doesn't get done in the budget over the last few times that the law has come up, what you've had is you've had it weakened and chipped away at and actually made more irrational, and it destabilizes apartments and actually destabilizes communities. So we have an opportunity here to get it done in the budget. The governor has said that he wants to extend and expand these laws. The speaker has been a long time advocate for that. So we've got an opportunity here to do what, to turn the tide on weakening that we've had over 15 years. So I hope, or 20 years. I hope that we do it in the budget. It is fundamentally important, and my view is that it must be in the budget.
But if it isn't in the budget, will you have a difficult time voting for the budget, assuming that we actually get a budget at some point?
Look, it's going to be a very tough budget. My hope still is that it will be in there. And, look, I've been involved in the budget process this year. I've been advocating for what I care about. But as you know, unfortunately in Albany, the majority really runs the process, and the minority is too often left out, just as the public is. So I'm going to look at the budget very carefully the moment that I can and make a decision based on that. When you have this role in the budget, I think that putting options on the table or taking them off the table before you see it doesn't make sense.
Good point.
But there's no question that the extension and expansion of rent regulation should be in the budget and is fundamentally important.
Senator, you were just speaking of the majority that controls the chamber, and I'm being told now by my producer that we heard from a Senator Greg Ball, who is very conservative. He's from the Hudson Valley, a Republican, and your bill he is terming the Terrorist Empowerment Act.
I think I talked about poisonous rhetoric earlier. Look, it's obviously not that at all, and I think that to even respond to that doesn't make a lot of sense. The truth is, I don't think a majority of both the House and the Senate in the last term had that view. I don't think that when you look at the sorts of young people that we're talking about, that makes any sense at all. Simply attaching those words to a proposal, I know the goal is to kill the proposal. The truth is that my goal is to say, if you want to be a hardworking New Yorker, if you want to get an education, if you want to serve our state, that's who we want to have in the state, and we want to make that possible.
Yeah, and I just want to, in parting, I just want to briefly touch on redistricting, if you will. I mean, we saw the census numbers come out. Your district actually grew considerably, but because the population grew in Manhattan, in the Manhattan part of your district, the more wealthy part, really, and in Chinatown, actually, where there's a lot of immigrants, you saw a loss of population. Are you among the elected officials who are concerned about this idea of an undercount, and do you think that the number should be challenged?
I am concerned about it, and I was really pleased to see Mayor Bloomberg say what he did. The truth is, if you go around the 25th Senate District, Lower Manhattan, parts of Brooklyn, we are booming all over the place, and we have new immigrants in Chinatown and a stable community. We have growth, as you said, in some of the wealthier parts of the district in Lower Manhattan. I was very surprised to see a supposed loss in Chinatown and another part of my district that is less wealthy, which is a part of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, that's largely Hasidic Jewish. So I'm very concerned about the numbers and look forward to working closely with the mayor and with other legislators. You know, it's incredibly important what happens with these census numbers. It's
right.
true in terms of federal aid. It's true in terms of representation on the federal, city, and state level. And equity is critical. So these numbers are surprising and concerning.
Well, and not to mention that they are going to be the basis for redrawing everyone's district lines, which I think that everyone is concerned about. So I'm looking
That's
forward
right.
to hearing.
In a fair and nonpartisan way, Liz.
Right, of course. And we will see, though, because I'm not so sure that the Senate GOP is on par with, at least not with Ed Koch and Andrew Cuomo's idea of that, and the Senate Democrats, we should point out. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I want to thank you, though, Senator Squadron. It's good to see you, and have a good night.
You too. Thanks a lot, Liz.